What's up, guys? I'm Mike from StockedUp, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. We have an awesome episode for everyone today. We had some pretty huge news. The stock market broke all-time highs. The SPY was just skyrocketing up towards the end of the day. In this video, we have some great plays for the rest of this week. We have an $8.7 million trade for this week, and we're, of course, going to be talking about the news, how Elon Musk invested about $1.5 billion into Tesla. We also have some news with earnings and Disney. But with that being said, if you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe. Tom and I post brand new videos every single day. But with that being said, Tom, what's going on with this Tesla / Elon Musk / Bitcoin situation?
Yeah, the Elon Musk has really been getting on Twitter over the past few days and really hyping up Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and a whole bunch of these different things. And Elon Musk came out and said that they invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, sending Bitcoin to record levels near $44,000. And Elon Musk has just been tweeting about this, like I said. And Tesla said in a statement, in quotes, "Moreover, we expect to begin accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for our products in the near future, subject to applicable laws and initially on a limited basis, which we may or may not liquidate upon receipt," the filing continued. So that's very good to hear that they might accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. And to be honest, I'm pretty surprised that Elon Musk and Tesla hasn't already started accepting that as a payment, given how they're big into innovating and stuff like that.
Sure. I think it's overall, I think this catalyst is going to be huge for just the cryptocurrency industry, you can say. Obviously, Tesla is a huge, powerful company. And the fact that they're going to start to accept Bitcoin as payment is a pretty big catalyst, in my opinion, for Bitcoin. And I think that obviously played a huge role as to why we saw Bitcoin pop. But Tom, I'm not sure if you saw, but we saw GBTC pop, but also MARA and then RIOT. These are like kind of like cryptocurrency stocks, you can say, and they really just exploded today.
Yeah, and one other thing is I think that with GBTC, I think that ARK Invest, ARKK even put money into GBTC, which is a pretty good sign for Bitcoin and of course GBTC for the long term if ARK invests in them.
For sure. So with this catalyst, obviously this is great for Bitcoin, but it's also great for like, let's say you can't trade Bitcoin, you can trade GBTC, you can trade MARA, and even RIOT. So these are all different ways to kind of ride this momentum. But with that being said, Tom, we have to cover what's been going on in the YouTube comments. So it's a shame that we even have to say this, but all over YouTube, not just our channel, but there are scammers in the comments posing as like different creators. So for example, we can see we have a comment right here, and we have a scammer that copied our exact username, and the profile looks just like us, but that's not us. So guys, if you guys ever get a message that looks like something like our profile or talking about WhatsApp or anything like that, that is not us. You can see that Tom's going to point out right now, this is what our profile looks like. It has a little like dark highlight behind it, while the scammer, there's no highlight. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone. Please don't fall for any of these scams. It's not just our channel. It's all over YouTube. So it's a shame that we even have to bring this up, but we definitely wanted to point that out. So just wanted to point that out. But with that being said, let's get right into the Disney news for this week. So what's going on with Disney?
Yeah, Disney actually popped and broke all-time highs today in an extravagant move to the upside, moving above $190. And just like we said, their Disney Plus memberships are expected to grow very significantly over the next few years. But the reason they actually rose this morning is because Hasbro, which is ticker HAS, reported earnings. And apparently they reported not the best earnings in the world, but their fourth quarter revenue expanded by 21% because a lot of Star Wars toys and etc. are starting to really pop in sales. And these Star Wars toys are going to help Disney in the long run, as well as they're going to get some kickbacks, of course, for being able to use that name in there. But it's just awesome to see Disney breaking these all-time highs, and even Hasbro, which is expected to do pretty good over the long run, they ended up falling on earnings. So that could be a pretty good earnings pickup here if you want to get shares for the long term.
For sure. And we actually have Disney reporting earnings on the 11th. So they report earnings pretty soon. I'm curious to see if we're going to see this continued momentum before they report earnings.
Yeah, it might be pretty hard to see that to see that momentum continue to run. And I think that once the actual earnings happen, if we keep running up and keep having big 4 or 5% days, I think that whenever earnings come out, it's going to be pretty hard for earnings to actually keep that momentum going. It might, because if they don't report fantastic earnings, if their earnings are just decent or like lackluster, or if they have a bad projection or something, then it's going to make them go down. But hopefully Disney Plus can kind of keep them going.
True, and it could kind of be like what we saw with Apple, I want to say 2 weeks ago. They ran up so much before earnings, and they actually reported pretty great earnings, but they fell. So it's a pretty tricky situation with earnings sometimes. But speaking of earnings, do we have any big names for tomorrow?
Yeah, for tomorrow, we do have some pretty big names. Let me go ahead and pull them up here. I really like tomorrow before open, Canopy Growth and Corsair. Those two are going to be two very valuable stocks to watch, CGC and CRSR. And then tomorrow after close, we have Twitter and Cisco, which are two pretty big stocks as well. And then another big one that's on there that I think is going to be a little bit of a wild card is LYFT, which is going to move almost like Uber would.
Sounds great. Well, let's get right into our Discord member of the day. So today's member of the day is Justin H. He's always posting great positive comments in the YouTube channel, or in the YouTube comments, I should say. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Justin. Thank you so much for all of your positivity in supporting us through the form of YouTube comments. We really appreciate it. But with that being said, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have MARA. This is one of those cryptocurrency runners. When it has momentum, it definitely has a lot of potential to run. Tom, what levels should we be watching?
Yeah, this thing is flying up in after hours right now, moving from about 32 to 33.45 since after hours happened, but I would actually make them break 34 tomorrow.
Sounds great. With the next one, we have Nvidia, which also had a pretty great day.
Yeah, make them move above 580.
Sounds good. And with the last one, we have GM, which is also popping, and they also have earnings coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, those earnings look pretty good for GM, and a lot of these other stocks like GM and Ford have been doing very good off of like electric vehicle news, but make them pop above 57.10.
Sounds great. So for these plays, we are just eyeing them out for a quick potential day trade only if they break above the levels Tom listed, like I said, for a quick day trade. But with that being said, let's get right into the $8.7 million trade for this Friday. We are looking at Nvidia again, and we are looking at the Nvidia 600 strike call options that expire this Friday, February 12th. So looking at this play, Nvidia was up about 6% today, is showing a ton of momentum right now, is running up very slightly in after hours. I think it has a lot of potential. And at first thoughts, like my first look at this is I would think that they are longing these options, but I am a little hesitant when I say that because the options are about $23 out of the money and they are a weekly. So I don't love that, but I can definitely see Nvidia continuing depending on how we open up tomorrow.
Yeah, and just like you said, that's going to be a pretty big move, about around a $30 move. Today's move was pretty large, and it was around a $33 move. So, and you can see they were up 6%. So that would be pretty significant. But hopefully, Nvidia can kind of retest this high here around 590 and maybe go through that. You can see it's hit that a few times in the past, and then kind of came back down. So use that as a good resistance tomorrow.
Sounds good. And let's get right into our questions from the previous episode. With the first question, we have La saying, let's go BlackBerry. So ticker symbol BB. I actually kind of like this setup. I don't love it for the long term, but for a short term play, it's starting to bounce up. I know this is pretty risky, but I can see it popping back up to 16 depending on the movement tomorrow. It had a pretty awesome day on Friday. And like I said, this is a really risky play. So yeah, just definitely keep that in mind. Tom, do you see anything with this one?
Yeah, with this stock, I'm really in the short term, really watching for it to keep this 1330 level and kind of hold this purple 100 SMA right here. I think as long as we can hold this and we don't move too far below it, like if we start to break below 13, I might get a lot more bearish on this stock. But I think if we can hold 13 and possibly 1330, I think we might be pretty good over the next couple of days. And just with how much it's been running since it hit this $11 mark, it pretty much ran all the way up to 1450 without any breaks. Just keep in mind that one day of consolidation isn't too bad for it.
True. With the next question, we have Bean saying, can you guys cover CRSR and then VXX? So CRSR does have earnings tomorrow. I really like this for the long term. And I think the best way to play this is just to ride the momentum after earnings. Playing the earnings release is just a complete gamble, and I think the best way would just be to ride the momentum. Like if they have great earnings and they start to run up, maybe grab some calls or something like that. Or if they fall, maybe grab some puts. But I think the best way to play this one would just be like a day trade. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And the last time they reported earnings, you can see how volatile of a candle this was. You can see how big of a wick there is to the downside, and then it closed to the upside. So there was a lot of movement on that earnings report. And you can see if you just would have bought some shares or some calls after those good earnings, then you could have just held for that momentum to the upside. And I think that's the same thing here. If we see good earnings, hopefully it doesn't pop too much in the morning. If it does, I probably wouldn't play it, but hopefully it can just kind of stay like where it is and the price doesn't get so overly bought. But just watch for that all-time high of like 51.37. I think that could pose as a good level also.
Good stuff. And he was also asking about the VXX. Tom, I know you were watching that 16 level, 16 support level. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that 16 support's been pretty good. It hit off of it around 4 or 5 times, I want to say, over the past couple months before the stock started to go back up. Went from 16 to 20, 16 to 21. I mean, on the biggest run it had. Normally, it was moving from like 16 to 18 or 19. But I do think that this 16 level could pose as a good spot to possibly buy in. And then also, we have that inflation data coming out this week on Wednesday. So just keep in mind, we're right on this support right as that data is going to be coming out. And if that data comes out and shows that inflation is just growing at a rapid pace, then this really could send the VXX up and the markets down.
Sounds great. With the next question, we have Piper saying, great video. Always enjoy your guys' info. Would you recommend leaps on ZM? So I really like Zoom for the long term right now. I know ARK bought up some shares, I want to say a couple weeks ago or like a couple months ago, which is obviously a great sign. The only thing with Zoom is their implied volatility is kind of high, so their leaps are pretty expensive. Personally, I think the best way to go with this one would just be to get shares. But if you can find a well-priced leap, that can work out too. But like I said, they're pretty expensive. Like for example, if we went with like the January 21st of 2022, like if we went at the money for calls, it would cost about 10 grand. So personally, I just think you'd be better off getting shares. I just think, yeah, I think definitely for this setup, either shares or like a cash secured put, or maybe even like a call debit spread or something like that. But over the long term, I think it should do pretty well. With the next question, we have. With the next question, we have that's talking about SPCE. So, Tom, I know your stock had a pretty amazing week last week, and it tried to run up a little bit today. Are you watching any specific levels or anything like that?
Yeah, the first big level I'm going to be watching is like 58.70, which was the high the other day, but it's looking like just a pretty like good setup here. As long as we can break like that 58.70 to like 59 level, I think it can start to run again. It's holding these SMAs pretty well. I'm just a little worried with this double top up here around 62.90. That's worrying me quite a bit here. But I do like the movement on the stock, and at least the stock's not starting to like fall back down, kind of like it was here in between that movement between the one top and the second top. And I just think that hopefully we can hold these levels. And as long as tomorrow, like if we could break above 57.50 or like I said, 57.80, I think that we could really run up tomorrow in the short term anyways. In the long run, man, this stock's starting to get pretty high. And I would say that it could be due for a little bit of a pullback or some consolidation over the next month or two.
Sounds great. With the next question, we have V saying, what do you think about Tesla for this week? So Tesla's just kind of been stuck in a range for like the past, past month or so. Obviously, I like it for the long term, but for this week, I don't know. I'm pretty neutral on it. Like gapped up this morning, but it didn't have too much momentum. It tried to break highs in pre-market at around the $878 level, got rejected pretty hard and ended up closing around 862. I'm not a huge fan of it either way right now. I think if we give it a couple more days and if it gets closer to like the 840 support or even back up to the 880 resistance, I think that would present a lot of good opportunity. But for right now, I'm neutral on it. What do you think?
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be more neutral on it. It's still in that big range, like you said. And on this 180-day 4-hour chart, the range looks like it's between $800 and around $900. So you could even say 800 and 875 if you want to be really safe, but somewhere between 800 and 900. And it's just been trading right between there. And right now we're at the top of this. So honestly, I wouldn't touch it until we broke above 900 or we broke back below 800, especially because whenever Tesla gets like this, sometimes it consolidates like this and then explodes, and sometimes it consolidates like this and then drops a lot. So we'll just have to see what happens with it. But just given the movement that we've been seeing, I would have to think that we would have to drop or consolidate a little bit. But man, it's just so flat that it's a 50-50 right now.
Sounds good. And then we had a lot of comments regarding SKLZ. So this stock has just been exploding over the past year, went from about $10 all the way up to 46, and they have to do with like esports and online gaming and things like that. So I really like the industry for the long term. Overall, they look pretty good, but I personally can see them pulling back a little bit. I think if you like this stock for the long term, the best way to go would be like a cash secured put or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to look at it, really, is to get a good cash secured put if you want it for the long term. I'm not sure I'd pick up a whole lot of shares all the way up here at like 42 or 45. It just looks a little bit overextended right now. I think it could come back in the short term, but like you said, that's a really good industry, the online like gaming industry and esports. That's one of the biggest growing industries right now, and there's a ton of great stocks coming from that, like SKLZ and CRSR. Those two stocks have done great, but I think that SKLZ has just ran up a little bit too much. I'm not saying it's not going to go up tomorrow. It very well could. I like how it's holding the 100 SMA, and if we start to fall below 42, that's when we might start to see the pullback.
Sounds great. Well, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or any insight for the market for tomorrow?
Not really too much tomorrow. I'm really just going to be watching Disney because they're at that all-time high. And I'm also going to be watching SPY at all-time highs as well. But my main thing I'm going to be waiting for is Wednesday with that inflation data, just because I know that that's going to bring a lot of volume into the market. So tomorrow at the end of the day, be a little careful of a lot of volume with that data coming out.
Sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to trade with Tom and I every single day, plus access to our trading bots, you can click the first link in the description down below. We have a $40 off sale going right now. As always, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments down below. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe. We post brand new videos every single day. But other than that, thanks for watching.